Hi, this is Belinda Colubriale and this is Talking High Performance with Belle. So I'm making this podcast for people who want to live their best life, people who know that there's more in them, but they just don't know how to get it. So there's a gap, something's missing, I'm making it for them. Hi and welcome to today's episode of Talking High Performance with Belle. This month I'll be talking all things leadership, and so I'm excited to chat to you today about what I refer to as the leader's compass and what we can do to ensure that we're on the right course as leaders and ultimately the course that leads us to success. So it doesn't matter, whether you're leading a team, whether you're the senior exec at your company, or even if you're the leader at home. The fact is that, there are certain traits that fundamentally remain the same. And so we need to ensure that we're steering the ship in the right direction. And there are things that we can do in order to help us do that. And today I want to chat to you a little bit about that. So also feel free to head to my resources page and download a free copy of my ebook, The Visionary Leader's Playbook, and that'll be in the link below for you as well. So why is it important to be the leader that steers the ship in order to move forward? And this is all about getting people to follow you and align to a vision that you can share together. And sometimes that becomes difficult, and there's frustrations along the way that we face as leaders, and me, myself in the past have faced many frustrations as a leader. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. And on the journey, to becoming the best leader that we can be, we often feel frustrations. It could be that staff aren't listening or they're not performing, and so you feel like you need to work harder. It could be that you have a huge day planned and the school calls and you need to go and pick up your child because they're unwell. Or it could be that you have a midday meeting that's just been scheduled when you've planned to complete a major project that you're working on, and all of these things lead to frustration. Maybe you feel your team should already know what they're doing or what they're meant to be doing. You've explained it 10 times. And so you lack the energy and the motivation to show up as your best self when you need to explain it again or when you need to train them in something that could seem so basic. And there's many, many factors that impact our momentum as leaders. And it can be really, really frustrating. It could be that maybe you know what you could do and how great your business can be, but you spend so much time in your business rather than on your business because you lack that support and you don't feel like you can trust the people in your circle. So there's always going to be things as leaders that pop up in our days and pop up in our weeks that we need to navigate, and things that, give us a lack of control, things that we feel like we're lacking. And so we need to learn how to deal with these so they don't frustrate us as much as they can. And I want to share with you today a story of one of my clients, Mary. Now, Mary's not her real name, but let's just call her Mary for the sake of this example. So when I started working with Mary, she's a senior real estate agent. She felt really overworked and she felt that her team weren't giving her the support that she needed to get the sales in place and to get her to where she needed to be. And the funny thing was that the team didn't know how she was feeling. So she'd never told them. So when I said, do they know how you're feeling? She stopped and she looked at me, and she'd never spoken to them about it. And she'd never given them clarity around her vision, and when she started to think about that, she thought, no, they would have no idea because she's always portraying herself as happy and confident and smiling and bubbly. But deep down, she was really frustrated. And I think on so many levels, so many of us can get like that. We put on the face, we show up, but inside we're boiling inside or we're really frustrated with something. So Mary, we had a chat and she decided to hold a team meeting, and she told her team how she was feeling, what her goals were. And together she asked them to help her achieve these goals. And the team were shocked. They didn't know that she was feeling this way. And so, of course they were on board. They wanted to help her. They loved Mary. And fast forward a few weeks later when I spoke to Mary, she said she felt a lot lighter. So, things were falling in place. Her sleep was improving. And she felt like the team really could envision what she wanted for the future. And they seemed to thrive with this extra responsibility. So it was the complete opposite from, them not knowing how she was feeling to them really wanting to help her. And so this was really, really important to her moving forward. So if Mary's story resonates with you, then I want to share with you 4 ways to help you reduce the frustration in both your personal and professional life and help you become the leader that can steer the course for success in your organization or even in your business. So the first way is to ask yourself, is your team clear on what you're desiring or what you're after as a leader. So, if your team knew, if people around you knew what the end goal was, would their reaction and would their drive be the same? Would they perform the same way? Have you had the conversation with them to tell them what you're after? If they knew the outcome that you wanted, would the input be different? In Mary's case, her team didn't know what she wanted as a leader. She hadn't steered them in the right direction yet. So ask yourself, is your team clear on what you want as a leader and the direction that you want to head? The second tip is to flip frustration on its head from anger to a way of service and inspiration. So if you can develop the skills to flip anger on its head and turn your frustration into service, things change. So what would happen if you showed up and instead of getting annoyed at your team, you sat them down and you asked them, what do you need in this situation? How can I help you? What do you need from me? How would that change the outcome if you were more empathetic? So if you came from a place of getting really curious as to why this is hard for them instead of why it's hard for you, would you get the results that you're after? So that's point number 2, flip frustration from anger to inspiration and service. Like, how can you help them so that they can help you? Tip number 3 is remember that in the moment, that is the best that someone has. And I talk about this often, and this for me is something that's really changed the way I approach things, whether it's with family, whether it's with staff, whether it's with clients. When you come from a place of knowing that everyone's doing the best they can, it encourages softness. And sometimes people's best is great. Sometimes it's not. And it's how we show up in those moments that allows for that transformation with them. Usually there's a way someone's acting the way they are. So do you know the story behind the reason? Do you know why they're acting that way? And the answer may be yes, or the answer might be no. But just having the awareness that this is the best they have, it changes things. With Mary, her team didn't know how she was feeling and they were giving her the best that they had. So when she raised the expectations, their best was different. So can you approach that topic with them and go, okay, this is how you're showing up. This is what you're doing. This is the best you have now. This is the new benchmark. So that's tip number 3. And tip number 4 is to remember that some things are just out of our control. Sometimes we're going to get frustrated with things that are out of our control, and that's okay. Whether it's being called to an urgent meeting, whether you're meant to be working when you're meant to be working on something else, whether it's dealing with underperforming staff, if you can stay centered and understand that sometimes things are out of our control, frustration begins to dissipate automatically. Knowing that we can't control everything should take some pressure off us, but it takes practice to do that. And it takes us to constantly remind ourselves that, can I control this, yes or no? And if I can't, then sometimes we just need to let it go. So that's a wrap for today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I think striving to be the best leader that we can be in both our personal and professional life is such an important topic. And that's why I wanted to share with you that story about Mary and my top 4 ways to help deal with frustration in order to ensure that you're steering the ship in the direction for success. So if you enjoyed this episode, then you don't want to miss next week, where I'll be talking about the 4 C's of successful leadership. Until next time, live a successful, purposeful, and fully charged life. Your coach, Belle.